At the meeting, which is the Monday of like July 4th weekend.
So we do that like twice a year. They end up back to like this week and next week. Twice a year they end up back to back.
Well,
Wow, we're gonna need more chairs.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
I like Chief Resett because he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
he is.
He's the one of the person that I like because she. And I've been coming up here and asking about tours, and that's what she gave me. That's the call. Just no one is up one.
Good. You'll enjoy that. You'll enjoy that, my friend. Good. Dan, you good? Okay. I'd like to call the Saline City Council meeting to order. If you please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We welcome our guests this evening. There are copies of the agenda on the back table along with the sign-in sheet, and if you require listening devices, they are also available at your convenience. Council members present this evening are Council members Gearbaugh, Rice, Lesh, Harmount, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, and Mayor Morrow. Council member Seal will be absent this evening. From city staff, we have City Manager Swallow, Clerk Royal, Police Chief Radzik, IT Director Schonk, Deputy Police Chief Hartwig, and I believe Deputy City Manager Cole may be here later this evening. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as submitted unless there are amendments? Moved by Dillon to approve as submitted. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Harmount. All those in favor of approving the agenda as submitted signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion now to excuse the absence of our friend and colleague, Councilmember Seal? Moved by Gearbaugh. Let's Lesh be the second. All those in favor of excusing the absence signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. We're going to proceed to public comments next. I do want to note that under the discussion portion of the agenda tonight, either the city manager or deputy city manager will be giving an update on the Thorncrest apartment complex and our continued due diligence on the Davenport Curtis house. So if you are interested in speaking to either one of those issues, the chair will allow you to speak at both the first and second public comment period. So we come now to the first public comment period. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward and make comment or question on any item that appears on this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Those wishing to speak are requested but not required to state their name and address for the record. Before you begin your comments this evening, please clearly state the specific agenda item you are addressing. Please note that council will not answer questions during this initial public comment period. Are there any citizen comments on agenda items, either enumerated action items or any one of our 3 presentations this evening? Or a discussion item. Clerk Royal, did we receive any written communiques in advance of tonight's meeting in which the individual wanted their remarks read into the record?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed.
This is from David Jenkins of 239 Highland Drive. There are significant data privacy concerns associated with Flock traffic cameras and data platform. The data captured by Flock is likely to be considered subject to FOIA. A recent court ruling in Washington State determined that the data is public in nature and subject to FOIA. There are no technical blockers that prevent these cameras or anyone with access to or purchasing the data from extracting the biometric facial recognition data of occupants, race of occupants, gender of occupants, age estimate of occupants, matching faces to license plates and DMV driver license photos, or issuing automated speeding tickets based on impossible travel calculations. Given this data privacy concern, I am opposed to the City of Saline employing the use of Flock. He did give us supporting service or links, and that'd be available if anybody would like that.
Very good. And I believe everyone on council received that email earlier today. Excuse me. Are there any additional citizen comments? Clerk Royal? No. One last call. Any comments from the audience this evening? Easy enough. Then we'll proceed to the first of 3 presentations. First up is some recognition for recently retired officer John Belknap. Chief Radzik, Deputy Chief Hartwig, would you like to come forward? I don't see the handheld mic unless you have it there. It's in the back. Could I venture such impertinence and ask our tech support to bring that forward? Thank you, sir.
Does that one work?
It works, yes. If you'd like to come forward and begin with the desktop.
John Kelly, do you want to come up here too? Right. I was going to start and turn it over to Deputy Chief Hartwick, since he works with John longer here at Saline PD, but I have known John from his Pittsfield years, and we've had a long career working together as well. So anyway, I just wanted to say good evening to everyone tonight. We're honoring recently retired John Belknap, who's retiring after 37 years of service. John began his police services career at the Pittsfield Township Police Department in August of 1988 and retired from Pittsfield in April of 2013. He started his second career at the Saline Police Department in 2014 and served our community honorably until 2025, with his last shift here in Saline being September 5th, 2025. Officer Belknap has served as our range master and firearms instructor, as well as leading the police department in drunk driving, arrest, traffic enforcement, and also some terrible jokes. No, that's okay. That's okay. Yes. John, you've been a mentor to many, a friend to all, a strong informal leader here at the Saline Police Department, and you served our community honorably with integrity and grit. You will be missed, but you're always welcome here at City Hall. Notice I said City Hall, not the police department. Yes. We wish you and Kelly, this is his wife Kelly, a retirement filled with relaxation, travel, and health, knowing that it's now your time to enjoy the fruits of your labor. And I want to wholeheartedly thank you for your service. Congratulations.
John, you're a kind and modest man who doesn't seek attention, so I'm very glad that you're willing to stand up here and let's talk about you a little bit, and thank you for your service tonight. Trying to think of stories that kind of encapsulated the officer that you are, and one of the best ones that I can think of, kind of a simple thing, but John was not an officer that would pull you over and write you a ticket for having a tail light out. He is the officer that would pull you over, explain that it's kind of dangerous to have a tail light out. He'd explain how to fix that tail light, tell you where you need to get the equipment to fix it. He might even buy that equipment for you, and he would certainly help you replace it in the city parking lot for you. So that's the kind of officer that he was for us. Most of John's time in Saline was spent on midnight patrol. I spent a lot of time on midnight patrol as well. If you were to imagine the type of officer that you'd want to patrol your community while you and your family rested at night, John would be that officer. John always knew what was going on in his community, where he should be patrolling, and cared about doing the right thing. Time after time, I saw John treat an arrestee like they were an old friend. He'd arrest someone and just get on famously with them. He didn't look down on people, no matter their lot in life. John excelled at getting drunk drivers off the road. Several people came back over the years to our lobby or called in to me or another supervisor and thanked us because John helped turn their lives around after arresting them for drinking and driving. There aren't many of us who can claim to have significantly changed a stranger's life in a positive direction. John has done this many times. There are many stories I could tell about John, but I think the most important thing to share is that he had an obvious care, a deep care about his job, his community, and his coworkers. John, thank you so much for coming in tonight, allowing us to honor your career. On behalf of our department, we just want to thank you so much for your years of service.
Yeah, I believe we have a beautiful shadow box for Officer Belknap. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. People are more than welcome to come see it after the ceremony, but you'll get to take this home, and it honors his career, not only in Saline, but all the years he spent with Pittsfield as well.
Very nice. Very nice. Officer Belknap, this is your chance. Would you like to share any remarks to council and to the community?
Yeah, I paid each of them $50 to write that. It's been my pleasure to serve both Saline and Pittsfield Township. And first I want to thank my wife, Kelly. It's not easy to be a cop on midnight shift, as I was most of my career, and it's even harder to be the spouse of a cop on midnight career. So I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to serve, and God bless.
Thank you. Let me say a few things, Officer Belknap. First, I'm glad that you mentioned your wife, Kelly, because she is a distinguished public servant in her own right, served the residents of Washtenaw County with great distinction for many years. I do take issue with one thing that the chief said. I didn't think your jokes were that bad. I kind of liked them. Yeah, I liked them.
That tracks.
Yeah, you have had a very distinguished career, both here and in Pittsfield Charter Township. We are delighted that you chose Saline as a second career after your first retirement, and as Deputy Chief Hartwig and Chief Radzik indicated, you performed exceedingly well for the department and for the city, and your service will be greatly missed. But we do wish you many years of good health and happiness in a long and enjoyable retirement. Why don't you come forward and let each of us shake your hand and thank you for your service.
For everything.
My pleasure.
Thank you for all your enforcement.
Thank you. Congratulations. Look forward to seeing you again. Yep.
We started here together at the same
Yeah,
time.
and now I'm gonna have to put my own tags on every year.
Thank you for your service, Chair Adjournment.
I have a headlight that's out, could you?
It's good to meet you, sir. Yes, good to meet you.
We'll give Officer Belknap one more round of applause. We are going to proceed at this time to the second item under the presentation portion of tonight's agenda, which is traffic cameras. And I believe the police chief, deputy police chief, and IT administrator will be leading this presentation. I believe they have a formal PowerPoint. As soon as it is up on the screen for both council and our audience members to see, you may begin. And Mr. Shaw, make sure that microphone is working. I don't see the green light illuminated at the base. Maybe it is, but it seemed pretty faint when the chief was talking into it earlier.
Okay, can you hear me?
It's a little bit better.
So I wanted to present this to council. We didn't necessarily need to bring this in front of council based on the quote that we received from flock cameras, but I do know that this is a hot topic. So for full transparency, I just wanted everybody's input and kind of your ideas whether or not this is something that we want in the city of Saline or not. So, you know, to start off, why were we looking at flock cameras? There are neighboring jurisdictions who have and are utilizing flock cameras now at this time. And, you know, we have had some different incidents that have occurred here in the city of Saline that having a flock camera would have been very beneficial. One of the incidents that off the top of my head, was when we had the hit and run around Christmas a couple years ago with a young lady walking across Michigan Ave on Hall Street, stolen vehicles from the downtown area. And, you know, luckily when luckily when we had the 2 homicides here in Saline, if we wouldn't have apprehended the first suspect so quickly, flock cameras could have been very helpful in showing the direction of travel if we have a suspect vehicle. So I'll just go through, the PowerPoint is very short. I know you received information on this in your packets as well as a draft policy, because along with some of the things that you've heard about flock cameras and the information that we can obtain from flock cameras, it's very important to have a very strict policy to prevent, you know, this information being shared with other agencies without our permission. So here's just an overview of the flock camera technology. You can see a picture of what the flock camera would look like, along with, that is what you see as the license plate and the vehicle. Flock cameras do not, they don't capture biometric Facial recognition, that's not part of it. It's strictly the license plate, that's why they call it a license plate reader. We're also not writing tickets off of this because we don't see the occupant of the vehicle. In fact, if you're interested, I do have some pictures from Mylan that we just received today after I read some questions that some people had. So we can show you what you actually see. And even with a vehicle oncoming onto one of the cameras, you really can't see who is inside the car. It offers real-time alerts, so when there is a vehicle of interest that we have entered into the flock system or that Mylan has entered or any other jurisdiction, it will give on the officer's patrol phone, not their personal phone, their patrol phone, an alert. So say, for instance, an example, missing endangered from Augusta Township. Anytime we are taking a report such as that, we try to tie a license plate with the endangered missing to get it entered into lien. So if we were to run it through lien, a license plate, it would come back to whatever the vehicle's registered, and then it would flag that it was an endangered missing. This would be more preemptive. It would send us an alert that that vehicle and license plate is in our city and this is where they're at. So it would give us notifications in real time. Flock cameras, they can be deployed in public areas and monitor traffic and enhance public safety through continuous recording of vehicle information. We, at this point, the quote that we received, I don't think we did ask for the cameras that would be placed in public parks. That was not part of the quote, just because initially Frank and his IT department could think of another avenue for cameras in the park other than a flock camera. The flock platform, this is what we would get with the flock cameras as the vehicle. They call it vehicle fingerprint search. That's basically just police agencies can add information in plain language into the flock system. For instance, if a suspect vehicle was described as a black F-150 with a ladder in the back, we can punch that information in and it will look for vehicles in our area that match that description or give us alerts just based on that alone. The mobile app, that is the app that you would carry around with you. Every officer takes a patrol phone out with them, and that's where the real-time alerts would come in if there was a stolen vehicle or an amber alert or a silver alert or any other alerts. One of the things I was going to bring up with that is recently we had a rash of B&Es to some pharmacies, and it wasn't just our jurisdiction. It's very clear there's an organized group going around, and flock cameras in that instance would be very helpful. We do have a suspect vehicle, and so do other agencies. So this would be like a perfect example of when we would enter that vehicle and get alerts maybe at 5 o'clock in the morning if they hit our city again. The national LPR network sharing, that's just basically any jurisdiction that has, we have access to, say for instance, Mylan. If we inquired about a suspect vehicle with their agency and they had that on their system, we could ask permission to have them share that information with us and vice versa. But if you looked at the draft policy, that's why we have a policy. You have to have a complaint number and an investigative reason to ask for that or get that information. The custom hot list and hot list sharing, again, I talked about that with stolen vehicles. If you had a plate from a stolen vehicle, you put it in our flock system. If it came into our city, it would alert on one of the patrol phones. Transparency portal, I'll show you that in another slide, but we would get that. It would be something that we would put on our website. NCIC alerts, that's the national lien system where if you ran somebody and they had a warrant out of Arkansas, say, for instance, and it would say whether or not they would extradite or not. Any of that information we could get if we ran someone, but that is us stopping the vehicle, running the person. If there was, people wouldn't enter these into a flock system if it was a minor crime. We would be talking about a very violent felony warrant for homicide perhaps. And I already talked about the real-time alerts that would come up on the patrol phones. And then the audit trails, it's just like our Clemens system. Anytime anybody goes in and looks at a report, it's documented what time, even for how long they were in there. There's always an audit trail in case there's any questions about what we are doing with our information or why we're looking into a certain vehicle. And I also want to add the comment about the FOIA. I mean, our body worn cameras, and I remember when we first went to body worn cameras, and that was, Janet, you had asked that about FOIA, and that is a very real concern if you have a nosy neighbor that wants to know what's the inside of their house look like. There's parameters around what information we can release through FOIA. And then just touching on the real world impact and results, like I said, it can pick up on stolen vehicle, making the recovery quicker. We have really tamped down our pursuit policy. So for instance, if we had flock cameras, this could literally watch where a vehicle is going, throughout the city and outside of other jurisdictions. Again, the missing persons alerts on vehicles connected to amber, silver, and blue alerts would come up in real time, and that's something we could enter as long as we have a case number and it's a legitimate investigation that we're investigating. Again, we're not writing tickets from this. We're not identifying drivers. We can't even if we do get a hit, if you looked at our policy, there's other things that are in play before you can just automatically stop that vehicle. Building cases, it also provides evidence placing suspect vehicles at crime scenes for burglaries, retail thefts, and violent crimes. And again, I mentioned it would be very helpful, like with the pharmacy B&Es that we had a couple months ago. And also, it was the same with our body-worn cameras. I did see, I think everybody can attest to the fact that even us wearing body-worn cameras do kind of deter things escalating, and sometimes everybody's recorded during the incident, and I've heard from other jurisdictions that it might also have the same effect with criminal activity in your state. I'm not going to go through all of this. You all had an opportunity to look at it, but one of the things that it keeps coming up, we are not using this. They do not even have the capability for biometrics, so we're not doing any facial recognition. This is literally license plate reader. It's a license plate and a vehicle. This is the transparency portal that I was talking about that we would have also in Saline. This looks a little different because, of course, I believe the city of Harrisburg is a 50+ department, but I'll show you what. Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of what it looks like. There's just an overview. It talks about what's detected, what's not detected, facial recognition, people, gender, and race. Acceptable use policy, prohibited uses. So for instance, immigration enforcement, traffic enforcement, harassment or intimidation, usage based solely on protected class, in other words, race, sex, religion, personal use. Again, it speaks to that in our policy, the hot list policy, access policy, data retention in days. Ours would say we kind of sat on 30 days for the data retention. And if you can see here, it looks like they have a number of LPR and other cameras, a total of 30. We were looking at 5. And then it talks about the hot list and what's alerted on it. We would put our information in there. And then it gives like recent success stories. And I won't read all of that to you. But I will say before I move to, that was the last slide. And I know that I gave a lot of information with the policy and such. But I also want to say I did receive some questions earlier today, and I just wanted to go over them, and then we can open it up for other questions if you
Please.
have.
Yep.
But let me just read through these. So one of the questions, and they may sound familiar, privacy. Can cameras see into the vehicles? So again, I kind of talked about that. They can't see in the vehicles. If you want to look at that email, this one, Jeremy, I
Is there a picture example?
That's what I'm gonna have him look for.
Yeah, pull that mic just a little bit closer to you, especially if he's going to be on the laptop.
While he's looking for that, I'll just go on with the rest of the questions. It states that data is purged every 30 days, but there are still concerns about retention. How can we ensure other agencies don't have access to the data? So again, it's in our policy. We can't just access other people's cameras. They could give us permission to do that, but really nobody, at least in our area that's on Flock, allows for that. We would have to request it and vice versa. They would have to request information from us that's tied to a particular criminal case or criminal investigation. I'm the only person, based on our policy, who can grant authorization to the content, and Flock tells us that they delete what they have on their end in 30 days. I mean, we have had conversations, we've had meetings with them, they even offered to participate tonight. I didn't think that would be appropriate right now at this juncture, but again, that's what they have told us, and I don't have any proof to think otherwise. So if you can see that picture, this is what Mylan sent us right from one of their Flock cameras. They blurred out the license plate just for privacy purposes, but that's, I mean, I can't see anybody in that car. There's a few other pictures. I think there was a total of 3. And then that one captured, it was a vehicle coming like towards, I just wanted to show that as well, that I can't see inside that vehicle either. And then there was one last picture. Yeah, and that's how it picks up the license plate. Again, they blurred out the numbers. I'm not sure why, it's public anyway, but I'll just move on. I'm going to get through the rest of these questions. So if we cannot use images for prosecution, does that diminish the value of the system? There are circumstances in which they can be used. It's used for police investigations, so I'm not sure where that question came from, because it can prove that a suspect was in this area at this time, and it can be used in building a criminal case. Concern regarding the price related and the value of Saline. In other words, will we get our return on investment, right? So we thought that perhaps we should try a 1 year on the cameras, see if there is return on investment. I know we can argue, is it worth trying them for a year at that, $24,000? However, I go back to, can you really put a price on if we had a really good feel-good story where we recovered somebody from an Amber Alert? I don't know if you can put a price tag on that. So I think we're all in the same boat with that. Other communities have chosen not to renew these agreements with Flock. Aside from general privacy concerns, could we contact them to obtain more specific information on why? So what I have done informally, I know it looks like Ferndale is possibly not renewing. I think a lot of that is pushed by council, and that's probably from things that they heard from residents in the community. But I can also tell you, they're opting out. There are other agencies opting in as well. And Mylan is looking at actually adding more cameras. And then, is now a good time due to federal enforcement presence in some communities and immigration concerns being a hot topic currently? So we are in a very bizarre climate right now. And that's kind of why I wanted to have more transparency discussing these Flock cameras, but I'm also return on investment and thinking about some of the positives that could come out of this. My fear also is downtown, the downtown, Four Corners there. We've had some bad crashes. I was thinking about the hit and run that we had, that many other, some other businesses had cameras that captured the license plate on this particular hit and run truck, but it wasn't clear enough. It was never solved. I mean, this would have been on the plate, find out, who was driving and hold the person accountable for the hit and run. There's also some traffic analytics that I'm going to turn it over to have Chris explain, and then we can take questions after.
Very good. IT Administrator Shonk.
Sure, so just to briefly touch on, outside of law enforcement usage, these cameras are used for all sorts of data analytics, so traffic, commercial vehicles, time, date, volume of traffic. They'll provide a really good insight, especially for Michigan Ave, through the community of, where the hotspots, when we have the most traffic, when we have the lightest. They're also mobile, so there's a nominal fee to relocate them. But if there's a hotspot similar to a traffic speed limit sign, we can move them to a certain street. We could monitor that. So again, for instance, South Ann Arbor, we can put a flock there. It'll watch traffic all day, so we will see every vehicle up and down the road to build that data just to see what the traffic patterns look like.
Before we open it up for questions, Deputy Chief Hartwig, anything you'd like to add?
Just to piggyback on that, that's one of the main reasons that we've been investigating this option is one of the largest concerns that we get repeatedly in the city is traffic, trucks, and it's hard to quantify. Sometimes large trucks always look like they're going fast. So do we actually have a problem? Do we not? Do we need to have an officer sit there and physically count all day long? So that's one thing that these cameras can look at and build those databases for us real time. You can put smart searches in there to just say all large trucks, what's the speed average for them, what's the count at this hour a day. So there's a lot of capability built into that. There's a possibility of saving money on traffic studies in those areas where those cameras are because they can give us that data.
My faux pas. City Manager Swallow, anything you'd like to add?
No, obviously, this was brought forward to me actually prior to my start here, and one of the conversations with Chief Radzik was that we definitely want to have some public input, council input prior to implementing the program, and so that was certainly our cooperative effort to bring that to you and make sure that questions are answered before proceeding with any type of contract.
Very good. Thank you for that. If the three of you would hold tight, because there may be questions, comments from my colleagues that each of you can address. If I'm not mistaken, 3 weeks ago I began questions with Councilmember Rice. So this evening I will begin with Councilmember Harmount, then wrap up with Councilmember Rice, and if I have any concluding remarks, I will share them at that time. We'll start with a round of 5 minutes per council member. If there are additional questions, we can consider a subsequent round once everyone's had an opportunity to say their piece. Again, I will start with Councilmember Harmont. You have 5 minutes.
Thanks for the presentation. I have been in the preliminary stages of gathering some feedback from the community. I think we still need to gather a lot of feedback from the community based on some of the information. I would like to know, has our legal counsel reviewed this? Okay.
Not that I'm aware of, not at this point.
So one of the questions I want to ask is the items that are identified admissible in court. So I think I had a previous conversation, I had asked about a truck that was going on South Ann Arbor. I was at Brecken, and I'd asked you if whether or not, because it was a very large truck, if there was any way, if we had a camera there, if we'd be able to do anything. And the answer was not really, because we couldn't tell what the weight was, or so I guess my question is, if we're going to have this and we get past the hurdle of if we get past the privacy hurdle, then can we actually use some of this information for its purpose as you've identified?
Yes, and actually in that instance, that would be helpful because we would be able to run a plate and do some follow-up at least on the driver. I think the way I read that question was, could we ticket who was driving that truck? We couldn't just issue a ticket to whoever was driving that truck without some investigative measures to find out who was driving and identify who the driver was. So yeah, that would be a start. We'd have something to follow up on.
There's several communities in Michigan, and not just Ferndale, it's Dearborn. There's a lot of different communities that have actually had this and are moving away with it, away from it, and citing privacy and citing that they're not getting the benefit that they thought they were going to get from it. So I guess one of my questions would be, can we please follow up with those communities and find out specific reasons why they're moving away. And then once we break a contract, and what then can that company do with the information that we have had? So if we're getting out of the contract, then do they own the information? Do they own, like, what happens to the information after we get out of a contract?
I mean, according to Flock, they only keep the information for 30 days, so they shouldn't have anything that they could sell. And we have asked those questions in the meetings that we've had, and they tell us they don't sell the information and it's purged after 30 days. Again, I haven't found anything to make me think otherwise.
Yeah. And I do want to say, I really appreciate it. I know we're going to have, this is kind of just the beginning of the conversation. I hope that we're going to open this up for more questions and kind of do a Q&A and make sure that we've covered all the bases. One of the things that was a little bit concerning, but the scope, you mentioned that you can move the cameras. So I guess my question is, if we are moving the cameras, is the community going to be notified if the cameras are moved, if we do move in this direction? And then, where are they being placed? Because there are disconnects right now with federal and state law, and maybe where these cameras could be placed could put people in a little bit vulnerable to that gap. So that also was something that was brought up. And again, I'm a representative, and I'm just trying to collect what the community has been giving me for questions so far. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Harmount. We'll jump to Councilmember Lesh. Mr. Lesh, you have 5 minutes if you'd like it.
I just want to say that I am actually a large fan of the flock cameras. My old neighborhood in Pittsfield Township, which I believe was the first installation in Michigan. So it was at the beginning of 2019 when that neighborhood put in flock cameras. And I have to say, we had absolutely no issues with it. They deleted information out just as they said they would. The traffic patterns through there, it's in a neighborhood going up to the high schools, which was part of the initial thought, because when the homeowners association was looking at it, that we were looking at putting traffic calming kind of things, trying to limit the amount of speeding going through the neighborhood. With the flock cameras in place, we have had no problems at all with that. We've had no break-ins. It's done wonderful things for that neighborhood, so I'm a big fan.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Lesh. Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, you have 5 minutes if you'd like it.
Thank you. I guess following up on Ms. Harmount's question, so will we disclose where the cameras are located?
I don't see a need to keep it a secret. What we originally thought for purpose of some of the things that we're looking at, and for instance, with the car dealerships that were broken into a couple times, we figured Michigan Ave on the west end by Austin, somewhere at the Four Corners to cover downtown, and Michigan Ave and Industrial area, and then
on Maple. So we looked at locations, we looked at what made sense traffic-wise, and then also what was the ease of installation. So with Michigan Ave, obviously that's MDOT right away, right? So we have to work with them with the permitting process to get them placed where they can. So like Chief Radzik alluded to, so downtown we're still working on a permanent location since everything downtown is MDOT owned. So we're working on clearance to see if we can mount on the existing infrastructure. We have to put something else in, so we don't have the final location on that, but that's the intent anyway. And then we also are looking on Maple and then South Ann Arbor for the two other locations, kind of north, south, east, west.
Okay. I guess my question to follow up to that was then, because they're known places, will people circumvent those areas to avoid the cameras?
It's possible, right? I mean, they're visible, so it's not like we can really hide the locations anyway. I mean, if anybody knows, there's also a public, there's plenty of public maps that show every flock location in the state. So,
right.
Yeah, it's not something we can readily really.
No, I'm just saying that, what you're trying to find is, are people going to just find a way around it?
Sure, and there will be spots in the city that aren't covered with those, but again, budgetary restrictions, we wanted to hit the best bang for the buck.
Okay. And then, are there devices on which people can cover their license plate the way they do with toll readers?
There are some emerging things that seem to trick the flocks, but I think it's kind of a cat and mouse. They'll keep outdoing each other, so I think it'll be a moving target continuously.
Okay. And then, are there percentages of the accuracy versus inaccuracy of the data that they're collecting?
As far as reading the plate, how many?
And things like that, because there's going to be instances where they're not going to clearly get a plate. And the way that I sort of read it, it's like, okay, you can enter red, Buick sedan, and it's going to pull up all red Buick sedans. Right. So are there going to be incidences where you're pulling up data of the wrong vehicle? Like, how much time is there? Is this something that you would be doing? Who owns the task of looking at that data?
So that's going to be in the draft policy, and I guess they can speak to the policy more, but that would be more on the law enforcement side. So I mean, the officers would have access. There's an audit trail to see why they access that camera, why they search for that red sedan in there. To the accuracy question, it's obviously not going to be perfect. There'll be mistakes. I apologize, I don't have the number in front of me. I know Flock quotes it in the high 90 percentile of getting the plates, but obviously they're not going to catch everyone. I mean, especially in the winter months, right? If there's snow on a plate or something, it's not going to
right.
be well. Right.
And what is the time frame that you're looking at for this?
I guess I don't know. I mean, we could go soon if we want. If further discussion is necessary, we can do that too. There's no necessary rush. It's just something we're exploring, and I think it'd be a good benefit. So
then, kind of going back to the beginning of the discussion to the chief's comment, is this body making a decision, or has the police department already made a decision and this is just an information, courtesy?
I can speak to that. No, obviously, one of the reasons when this first came to me was that we want some public input, we want some council input as to whether or not to proceed. So it would be my thought was to bring it back to council for your decision as to favorable or not favorable prior to making any implementation.
Okay. The other piece that I'm trying to understand when I looked at those photos from Myland is that when they talk about, it's the vehicle, it's the license plate, so it would give the assumption that these are directional cameras. But when we just looked at that second photo and it showed clearly a Love's truck from the front side of it going the other direction. So that's the piece that I'm trying to understand. It shows peripheral, what's happening on that sidewalk around that building, things like that. So you really are expanding beyond the vehicle, in the back of a vehicle. And so you're capturing a lot of data. And one of the things that I picked up on is when they talk about footage, one of their defined terms is it talks about audio. I mean, is it picking up sounds of people walking by? Is there anything else?
That would be new to me. I'm not aware of any audio being recorded.
Okay, because it's just it's part of a defined term, and sort of understanding, is that an add-on feature? Is that there and it's not something that we're accessing? So just understanding fully what is actually being recorded, how wide of that is.
Okay. Thank you. We're past the 5 minutes, so I'm going to appreciate the questions and move to Mr. Gearbaugh. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I guess for me, looking at this issue isn't so much, there are the advantages of being able to find the safety and everything else. How much of this will be used for non-jurisdictional work? So all of a sudden we get a notification, somebody's stolen a car. The example was like they found a car from New York City that had been stolen. It came through the city. What would be the protocol for, we've identified this car, it could just be passing through town. Are we going to immediately trigger one of our officers to go after it? Or is it something that we would contact the state police to do? Those are the kind of protocols I'm wondering is like, I would rather we're focusing on the city, not necessarily the needs of, do we want to get into those kinds of police enforcement that seems to stretch beyond what our real needs are here in the community?
So I'll just say if it was a stolen vehicle and we received an alert, if it wasn't dumped here, we probably wouldn't be pursuing it anyway based on our policy. But we would be able to say, hey, Saline Township or Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office, MSP, we just had this stolen vehicle coming through Saline. The last that we, its whereabouts, Michigan Ave in Austin, and headed westbound. If it was dumped here, though, I'm thinking it still is going to affect us, right? Because somebody is here in the city of Saline that had a stolen car and where are they at now and what are they up to? So, I mean, that.
And that makes sense. I'm more concerned about pursuits and those type of things that, can we find a car comes in at Michigan Avenue, camera at Industrial, and it's like, oh, great, we can go after this one. And then it's like, it's still going through town and pursuing that type of thing.
And unless it was tied to a violent crime, we wouldn't be able to pursue it.
And as I'm looking at other things, I've been reading stuff about even the ACLU and everything else, looking at this, that there have been concerns where flock cameras in Texas have been used to track women, those type of things where
that's in my policy.
I know, and that's what I saw that, and that
yes.
I think those are the concerns where the public's really at this point, because even Flock has said in their contracts and stuff, which we need to have reviewed by our lawyers, there's clearly implications that the information that they have can be used by the federal government or by the states, which should not be. And if it's our data, we should be able to immediately delete it if somebody asks for that kind of information. I feel that that's a necessity now because of all the corruption that is happening at the federal level. The other one, when you talked about data analytics, I think that's great and everything. But how well can we use this from which has always been the biggest concern is traffic enforcement, violation, speeding, running stop signs, running the red lights. We can gather that information and potentially use it to contact companies or businesses, but we can't really write a ticket, correct? Does it provide that evidence? I mean, it's not something you do.
I guess I would look at traffic enforcement also as a criminal investigation, right? I mean, so that would be part of it. I don't think that is really the purpose of flock cameras for traffic enforcement.
I'm just looking at one of that's, if you could answer that a little bit more, because that's the biggest concern downtown has been traffic.
In the state of Michigan, in general, traffic cameras, you can't write citations from them. So for like a civil infraction, you obviously couldn't write a ticket just based on this camera footage. If it's a misdemeanor level, like a criminal investigation, hit and run, pedestrian, God forbid, gets hit, something like that, that's where this comes into that criminal investigation can be used in the prosecution of someone. But writing a ticket, just, like a speeding ticket, stop sign ticket, that can't be done through the cameras. But we're talking about collecting that information to deploy our officers a little better, because sometimes you don't know, if these complaints in this area, does that supersede their need to be over in these other areas, so we can kind of deploy people a little better with that data.
And then one thing is, when we have that focus on up at the four corners, can you see the trend of a car running through a red light or any of that type of nature, unless you go back and manually review it?
Yeah, some of that needs some more review because it depends on the placement of those cameras. So there's some work to be done in placing those cameras. What is MDOT property? What is our property that we can place cameras on without permits? So it just depends on the placement, because you might lose some ability of that camera if you're just watching the red light when you really want to be focused on the vehicles and the plates, if that makes sense, because you have to try to back that camera up to see the lights and everything instead of just seeing the vehicles and the plates.
Okay. I guess for me, it's really these deterrents. I can understand we're using this to find these emergency cases, especially missing persons and those things. I guess for me, it would be the protocol that you're using to try and determine, is this interest, like that example I had there, where an individual could call up and say, you have a missing person, but really they're trying to track a person or something that goes beyond the needs that are really required. And I don't know how that will be managed by you all. I'm sure you do it already in terms of what we do for missing alerts. Other than that, I think we saw what the pictures look like. It's really, for me, the concern that are the federal and state laws in place that protect the individuals, and do we have the authority to stop data release from us that could be mishandled and misused? And I don't want to get into a legal lawsuit with the federal government, and I think that's really what I think all these other communities are starting to assess. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbach. Councilmember Rice, you have 5 minutes if you'd like it.
Thank you. I'm going to carry on with that spirit that my colleague was just speaking about. Over the last few weeks, especially since this is kind of coming into the news more often, we are finding more and more that this administration, all the way down to the local jurisdictions, the judges and whatnot, are leaning toward the federal government can do whatever the hell they want to do. And that scares me with this type of a system. I have no concerns about it with the city of Saline and the city of Saline controlling it. If it was our cameras, if it was not through another entity like Flock, yeah, it makes your lives easier, it makes the community safer. I do not trust any of this right now with what our current status is in the federal government. With that said, I would like to have some conversations perhaps with either Ellie Savitt, A.G. Nessel, someone in the state of Michigan, and talk about what that means for communities and municipalities in the state of Michigan. Is there something that we can get into place? If our legislators in the state of Michigan can get something into place, the policy that you've written is great. It's a great first step in us making sure that we're doing good community policing, but I literally think it would get thrown out the window if someone from the federal government came in and said, we don't care, we want this information. So that's where I am with this. I understand your perspective. I understand all of the details that you've put together and the reasons we want to use it here. I just don't trust the system right now. That's not to say things couldn't change in the future. Laws start to, be put in place. Policies within the state start to be put in place. But case law right now, as of right now, is showing that this information can be taken from us. And that makes me very nervous. A couple of months ago, we didn't have any case law behind it. So I sort of was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, so long as it stays the way that it's going, Flock is promising these things, and they're fulfilling their promises, but now they're starting to be overruled by case law. So if we could have some conversations with some folks in the state, I think I would be a little bit more comfortable with this. I also want to make very clear that that the photo made me a little nervous. Like my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, pointed out, that was a fairly empty stretch of roadway there. Where we're going to be putting it, pedestrians, bicycles, cars, all sorts of stuff. We cannot say it's not capturing biometric data if it's going to be taking pictures in the four corners. It's going to catch me walking to Drop Top Pizza on a Tuesday night. So, we got to make sure we're not, what we want is different than what we're actually going to get. And again, it's not that we wouldn't protect that information here in the city of Saline. It's that we are being overruled. United States citizens are being overruled by an administration that is doing whatever they want to do right now. So I'm not comfortable with that. So if we could just keep having these conversations, let's make sure the community is very involved. Let's hear from them, all of their thoughts, all of their fears, all of their needs. What does the community need? And just make sure that everyone's Fourth Amendment is protected. Let's make sure that we're sticking with our policies as they relate to the rest of the state. And then, I want to see what Flock does over the next couple of months, too, as these court cases continue. A lot of our social media entities have been pressured over the last, 6 to 9 months to change their policies. Who's to say Flock's not going to be pressured to change their policy? Again, currently trust them, don't trust what's going on in the rest of the nation. So that's all I have to say. I do appreciate all of the legwork that you guys have done on this, but I'm asking to continue this conversation a little longer.
Okay, it seems pretty clear to me that it would be improper and premature to try to develop consensus on this issue this evening. So what I'd like to do, and I would ask specifically of the city manager, there are some questions and concerns raised this evening that are probably best addressed by either our legal counsel or perhaps by the county prosecutor's office, Ellie Savitt. I'd also like to make sure that our council members-elect have been thoroughly debriefed on this and are provided an opportunity to ask questions, along with council member CO, who was absent this evening. Of course, as was made mention by Councilmember Rice and others, we welcome feedback from the people that we represent. You can email all of us directly using one URL. I guess the only other thing I would ask City Manager is perhaps we would be in a position to revisit this issue as a discussion item either at our next meeting, which unfortunately is just 1 week out, so that might not be possible. But if it would be improper to consider the issue on the 17th, perhaps we can revisit the matter as a discussion item at our first regular meeting in December, which is on Monday, December the 1st. I'll leave that to your judgment. In the meantime, if council members have additional questions and concerns, I'm assuming you would like those directed to both you and the chief. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Okay, very good. Anything you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
No, just thank you for your questions and the time. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Very good. Look forward to revisiting the matter. Okay, we're going to move on to the third and final item under the presentation portion of tonight's agenda. We have representatives from Related Digital here to talk about the proposed Saline Township Data Center. We also have some representatives from DTE Energy, our friend Molly Lumber-Coy, and also Dan Mahoney. Commissioner Beeman is here, who represents the entire Saline community, not just the city of Saline, but Saline Township, where the data center is proposed. I do want to thank the representatives from Related Digital for joining us this evening. You are under no obligation to be here, but I thought it was important because this is a project that will have a pretty significant impact on the community, not just Saline Township, but the entire area. And I think if this project is done right with the appropriate safeguards, it can be very advantageous for the area. I know there are some legitimate questions and concerns this evening from my council colleagues, and I wanted to provide them the opportunity to address those publicly. You have a PowerPoint, so we would welcome you to the podium. That podium can be adjusted according to your height. Again, please speak into the microphone, make sure the light is illuminated at the base. And gentlemen, if you'd like to introduce yourselves, that would be wonderful.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor and Council and City Manager and public. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Greg Goucher.
I believe it's on, Greg. Yep. There's where you can just, you see the little switch there? Yep, there you go.
So thank you for the invitation. We are with Related Digital. Ryan Friedrichs. I'm also here with Natalie Ravitz. And we've been here lots in the past 4 months, and so we've not been in this room, so thank you. So let's just run through the project, and we're happy to answer any questions. First of all, so our company is Related Digital. It's a vertically integrated, community-centered, sort of best-in-class real estate data center developer. We have leaders from around the country who have done this for a long, long time. The parent company, the related companies, who I've worked for 28 years. It's a 50-year-old company. It's probably one of the largest private developers in the country. And we do lots of different things: residential, commercial, data centers, industrial. We always do things, we have a few pillars, always with excellence: design, construction, management, integrity, and most importantly, we do things with the community, which is why we were here for so much for the last 4 months, and really understanding what the community needs are and making sure that we address them, and so that our project, it will benefit the community in the long run. So quick overview of the project. I'm sure you've heard some of this already. It's not it's probably new news, but it's on about 250 acres on the western portion of Saline Township. It's a data center, which is 3 large buildings full of computers. That's what they are. With a lot of wires and a lot of power. And this particular one has a tenant, Oracle, in partnership, or an Oracle and OpenAI, are in partnership. It's a big project, and it's an important project for Michigan to be a leader in the space, and actually on a national interest to basically make sure that America is keeping up with the AI race. This is a key part. You may have heard the White House announce this project back in January. It's part of the Stargate project. So this is one of the Stargate data centers. Anyway, so then we're prepping up now. If you go down Michigan Avenue, you'll see some trailers, and we're starting to get ready for real construction in January. Here's the township, the red line. And you can see we are buying approximately 1,000 acres, which is like the sort of shaded white area, the yellow line. And you see why is it there? Route 12 you see is the white line. The yellow line is DTE's power lines. And so you can see that these two things cross right at our location, which is one of the reasons why this is actually the perfect site. It's also, so we're building about 250 acres, and we're leaving the rest unbuilt. And we have commitments with the township that we will not build anything else. We'll conserve a ton of wetlands, all the woodlands. We will actually promote farming and the rest of the space. And it's about 30 feet down below Michigan Avenue, and surrounded by woods on 2 sides at least, actually 3 sides in most parts. And so with a little berming, landscaping, once it's built, you won't see it, right? You won't hear it, you won't smell it. I'll get into that in a second, but it should be very, very low impact. And really, so the buildings ourselves, the 250 acres, is 1% of land in the township. So these are some very hot topics, and you'll hear your social media and the news. The top 2 ones are water and energy. So I want to spend a little time on these and address them, because some data centers use a lot of water for cooling, right? That's where you hear the data centers, they use millions of million gallons of water a day to cool the data centers. And that's, so you hear like data centers are bad for the environment because of water. This is not the case with our data center. And it's not the first one, right? There are data centers that have air-cooled technology. That's what we're using. We're only using water for toilets, sinks, kitchens, etc. We have one, actually try 2 for redundancy, small on-site wells that will service our facility. We're not drawing water or sewer from any other municipality. And it's really a very minor use of water. And that's actually, that use is in the contractual agreement with the township. We can't change that, right? We can never turn back, we can never change. A lot of these things, almost everything we're talking about today has been vetted with the township and documented in a legal document. The second, and actually also the water, is we have been working closely with the fire department, and they had sort of a need for water access along Route 12. And so we were putting a special turnaround and access point for them in a 350,000 gallon tank for water for the fire department, which they can use for anything, not on our property, but for anywhere in the city. They will have a place for 2 fire trucks to pull up at any one time, fill up, and go service fires anywhere. So they're very happy about that, and we're happy to do that. Energy is the other big topic that comes up. And as Dan can tell you better than I can, and I've read the statute, it's by law, if there are improvements to the grid that are required for our data center, we, or our client, have to pay for it, right? They cannot actually increase the rates. And as Dan will tell you, I'm just mirroring his words, if anything, this massive use of the sort of a lot of unused electricity should put downward pressure on rates, if anything. And Dan, do you want to just I mean, that's kind of it, but is there any more to it than that, because this is such a hot topic?
Yeah, Mr. Mahoney, we'd welcome some statements on that, because I know each of my colleagues have received complaints, or concerns rather, from area residents about the future costs of utilities and the reliability of utilities if this project initiative were to go through. So we'd welcome your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Mr. Marl. Thank you, members of the council. Dan Mahoney, I'm the Director of Policy and Regional Affairs for DT Energy. Also, coincidentally, happen to be a proud graduate of the 1997 class of Saline High School. So it's a pleasure to be here with each of you tonight. As Greg was saying, the state of Michigan has laws and regulations that govern our business that protect our customers in some very key ways as we bring data centers online into the DT Electric service territory. The sales and use tax exemption that the state of Michigan passed at the end of 2023, signed into law in 2024, explicitly says that we cannot provide a rate to a data center that is subsidized by our existing residential customers. That rate is reviewed and approved by the Michigan Public Service Commission. In fact, we have filings before them related to this project to demonstrate that we are living up to that end of the bargain. Right? As Greg also said, what we see with this project is an opportunity to provide an affordability benefit to our customers. Our filings with the Michigan Public Service Commission, if you were to read them, would show that on average, annually, once this project comes online, we forecast a $300 million affordability benefit to our customers, right? Our system is much like any municipal-owned asset. When you increase the usage, you can drive down and spread the fixed costs across more customers, or for us, more sales. That's what creates that affordability benefit for our customers. So at a time when we are investing heavily into the distribution grid to improve its reliability and heavily into our generation fleet to make it more clean, that affordability benefit makes those investments for our customers much more affordable as we get into the 2030s. So those are just two key things, and I'm going to turn the mic back over to these guys, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the council members may have.
Thank you, Dan. Greg, please continue.
Yes, thank you. Third point, stormwater management. There are some concerns that a big data center will cause more flooding into the Saline River, which is not far away. It's actually quite the opposite. Our stormwater management plan is approved by the county. It actually includes several massive detention basins, which will actually catch stormwater. And so the situation should be even better than it is today in terms of stormwater management. There's been some concerns about lighting, and this we're following the ordinance, and I won't go through all the details, but there's many different requirements for dimming, for occupancy sensors, for dimming after certain hours. And again, there's not a, relatively speaking, there's not a lot of employees here. So it should not be a glow coming from this area. It's all downward lighting as needed for safety. Noise and air quality also comes up with some data centers. Typically, the noise comes from power generation equipment like generators running all the time. Our project has no power generation, which is also a legally binding requirement, other than we have 12 large generators, 2 small generators for emergency use only at the center of the complex, which will be tested once a month. So again, we don't have these sort of generators that actually typically create noise. Typically, a lot of ordinances, there is no ordinance for sound in Saline Township, so we're sort of making it up, and 65 decibels is a typical one that we've seen in other similar townships. But we went a step further. The town actually asked for it. We said yes. A requirement of 55 decibels at the property line. You're not going to hear this thing, right? We have engineers who design the equipment, acoustical properties, so that it'll be less than 55 decibels at the property line. And again, there's no one at the property line either, so no one's going to be bothered by this sound. And the air quality, again, because there's only a handful of generators, they're not running all the time. There's no air quality impacts whatsoever. Tons of local benefits. And this is just sort of a smattering of a few. Saline Township will get some serious tax revenue. It's probably, I think it's double or triple the current tax revenue. There's serious school revenue. $8 million is the conservative estimate. Some does go to the state for redistribution. About $3 million of that does go directly into the system for the debt fund. And what's not shown in the slide is another $2 million actually to the Washington County school system. And these are very conservative numbers. Job creation, on-site, there's about 450 in 3 shifts. But overall in the county, it's expected to generate about 1,500 good jobs. And during construction, this is sort of a peak number. Don't get too scared by that number, but it's union construction jobs, thousands of union construction jobs for Michigan. And then as part of our settlement with our final agreements with the township, we have a lot of other benefits that we are committed and happy to do, including a significant investment in equipment for the fire department here at Saline, and setting up a farmland preservation trust of $4 million so that they can buy farmland to preserve it. That was very important to them. $2 million community fund for them to use as needed. And again, we are only building on a quarter, essentially, of the acreage we're purchasing and maintaining the rest. These are some of the local benefits, just in the financial aspect. With that, like I said in the beginning, Related is very focused on the community. And by the way, our clients, our tenants, Oracle, is also extremely focused on being a good neighbor, being invested in the community. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan to talk about some of our community partnerships and benefits.
Great. Thank you, Greg.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having us. Ryan Friedrichs. I'll say a bit. In the township, they asked often about Related's connection to Michigan. I was the first staff member Related hired in Michigan years ago, so I'll say a bit about my background. Grew up the street in Scioto Township, went to University of Michigan, studied urban planning and civic engagement, military veteran, combat vet, came back, wanted to revitalize Detroit, served as Detroit's chief development officer for 5 years, and have been with Related companies for the last 5 years working on our University of Michigan Innovation Campus there. This project, throughout those years at Related, I've wanted to bring the other parts of the company as a Michigander to the state. For those who don't know, Related is the largest owner and preserver of affordable housing in the United States. We have affordable housing crisis, right? Bringing that company and doing a great project. Related is actually in Ann Arbor right now. They have an energy company, renewable. They have this extraordinary digital company. As I saw the data centers coming to Michigan, I wanted the right ones to come, the ones that don't use the water, the ones that are LEED certified, like the ones that would do, as Greg was mentioning, community benefits and preserve 75% of the acres they're buying versus the competition. So some of the things you'll see in terms of community partnerships, it was very important for the township that we educate the public. There's a lot of misinformation. It's a national conversation about these right now. Delivering that in open houses, delivering that at Oktoberfest, delivering it at as many events as we could hit, and even door to door. We have gone and knocked every single door in the township twice. Myself, and then the folks who came out and expressed concerns at meetings is a very important part of the conversation. What we also learned as we developed the community benefits was what the rest of the township thought too. The doors I knocked were 10-to-1 in support. Our overall numbers at the end were about 4-to-1. 70% either neutral or support, and about 30% opposing. That was wonderful. These benefits that Greg mentioned in terms of the roads, in terms of the schools, and the benefits that it delivers, as well as the low impact nature, mattered a great deal. We're going to keep doing that engagement. We're coming tonight to speak to you as part of that. We'd love to come back and look forward to taking your questions. And thank you again for the invitation.
Very good. Brian, Greg, thank you very much. I do want to provide an opportunity to Commissioner Beeman. It was very gracious of you to attend this evening. You've been very focused on this issue. You were at a town hall that Deputy City Manager Cole and I attended at Saline Township on this subject on September the 24th, which was very informative, by the way. Is there anything you'd like to add on this subject? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you'd like to make a statement for the record, the council would welcome that. Come to the microphone if you wouldn't mind, Commissioner.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I have to lower this, I'm not so tall. I would just say that at Washtenaw County, we are very invested in protecting our environment, protecting our water, protecting, the traffic on the roads and all of those things. So those are the pieces that are going to fall on the backs of my team in Washtenaw County when we're looking at the stormwater with the drains, when we're looking at traffic patterns, all of those different pieces. So we really are here to be the safety net service to ensure that these items are fulfilled and coming forward as well.
Very good. Thank you for that. We will do a round of questions. Again, 5 minutes per council member. Like I indicated earlier, we'll start with Councilmember Harmount and with Councilmember Rice and myself. So Councilmember Harmount, questions for our guests from Related Digital, DTE, or County Commission or staff?
Yes. Can we go back to the slide where it shows the investments that you're making into the community? Okay. Yep. So the $8 million for fire services, this will add additional risk for fire, correct? So there'll be, there is a risk for the data center for fire. So the amount of money that is being spent, the $7 million, does that offset the additional need for fire services?
I think Chief Spurl will have to answer that question. Chief Spurl will have to answer that question. I think this is not meant to be this is what you need to counterbalance, and that was not where the equation came. It was us trying to get back to the community. He needs this department that need equipment, not for us, in general. And so this is I think he would say, I don't want to speak for him, that this is a very manageable, this is a very safe, very sprinkler environment. He has no trouble servicing this. I don't think he would say, again, I don't want to speak for him, that this was somehow a way to allow him to buy equipment just for us.
Okay, so there wouldn't be any additional equipment to put out a fire at this facility that we didn't currently have a need for?
I don't think so, although they have to answer that. He's not said that.
The second question I have is, you mentioned that you're not going to be, you're going to have your own energy source. My question is, are you investing and driving more sustainable solutions for the grid, for DTE?
I think that's a good question for
Dan's right behind you there, Greg.
So, is this going to help DTE move towards more sustainable energy sourcing?
Yes. Right. So as you may know, in 2023, state of Michigan passed a series of clean energy goals. Those are sales-based targets, both the Renewable Portfolio Standard and its companion, the Clean Energy Standard, meaning the sales, the DTEs must meet certain thresholds of sales that we provide to our customers. When the data center comes online, it will increase our sales by 25%, thus raising those targets for us by the same amount. So this data center will bring more renewable energy to the state of Michigan than we were planning for beforehand.
So is it going to drive investment into more sustainable energy technology? What specifically is the additional sales going to do for creating more technology to create more sustainable energy?
Yes, it will help us invest more dollars in more renewable energy than we previously were planning on.
What specific renewable energy are you going to be?
Wind and solar in particular, as well as battery energy storage systems that are designed and built specifically for this site. Molly, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to mention Molly Lumper-Coy, regional manager locally. Let me just give you one great example. Trenton Channel Power Plant used to be a coal power plant. That is now becoming a state-of-the-art battery storage facility. So that's just one example, but there'll be other battery storage, there'll be solar. We are looking to meet portfolio standards, you know, as we move forward. So it is going to drive more sustainability, definitely.
I'll give up my time for other council members.
Very good. Councilmember Lesh, you have 5 minutes for questions if you'd like them.
Just interested, I am one of the 2 city reps for the fire board in Saline here, and I know that the fire board had just had a long discussion about a battery facility previously. Is that going to be the same one, or are you going to have your own?
Yeah. That's a totally separate project, separate company. I think that's they were just finishing up when we got started in June.
Okay, good.
And so no, we were not planning any battery storage on site in Saline Township. This is just we are funding TTE to go build batteries somewhere else.
Right, because I knew that facility was going to be right next to the substation there to store the excess. So I thought, you know, it must be something in the works anyway.
Not connected, actually, no.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
But
one thing on fire suppression, I know the chief did say adding a hydrant there actually lowers the fire insurance rates for because they don't need to travel. You're familiar with that already, but that's another positive they just wanted to touch on for fire.
Exactly. You know, one of the concerns for the fire board has been, you know, access to the rural areas in Saline Township, and having that extra storage tank at that facility will be a large benefit with our aging fleet of tankers and engines. So,
newer fleet.
Exactly. The other concern I have, living kind of on the west edge of Saline myself, US 12 obviously has been a problem, as we just know from that last fatality we had in the last weekend. With the additional workers that are going to be employed by that plant, and with Saline actually being the closest community to it, do you foresee, you know, getting some sort of collaborative thing with the DOT to potentially expand US 12?
Well, they have approved, we are planning to construct just turn lanes for in our 2 entrances, both on a bypass lane and a turn lane. That's been approved by NDOT. We did do a traffic study for the permanent situation, and it got the A grade, whatever that means. It's a sort of a nominal impact, actually. I mean, I may be lying about this, not lying, but I may be making this up. I thought I remember 9,000 current trips down Michigan Avenue. We'd be adding, you know, 450 new employees. So it's really nominal in terms of that impact.
Yeah, it's good to know that it's 3 shifts of 150 rather than 450 all at once all the time.
Yeah,
so.
yes. Yep.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lesh. Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, you have 5 minutes if you'd like it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and providing this information to us. I think it provides a little bit more clarity as to your scope of your project. I just had a quick question regarding tax revenue. You used the 1.6 million number, and it says through 2039. So that's a 13-year window. Is that a certain time frame for you?
That's a part of the 198 tax abatement. That's the period for that That's 12-year plus a little construction, but that's why we just that period. Because it's actually much higher initially, but we wanted to be very conservative and say on average over this period, it's that much. The actual year one, it's like $2.2 million, right?
Okay.
But it'll average some of it depreciates, and so we wanted to have a very conservative estimate.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And then what is the general life expectancy of a data center?
I mean, they're not a long time. These facilities are very expensive to build, and so they may change inside. I mean, the chips are going to change. I mean, almost guaranteed. But until technology changes, so we don't need power or cooling for computers. I mean, I think even that will always be necessary. And so the facility itself will have a very long shelf life. Like any other property, and probably more so because it's very expensive to build these things, billions of dollars, literally. The chips inside will change maybe even every 5 years.
Okay. I'm sorry, my questions are sort of just random here as I took some notes on your thing. When we were talking about the fire department, and did you say a 350,000 gallon storage tank?
350,000.
Okay, and will that be like maintained as a full storage tank, or is it just a capacity? So that's a lot of water to be pulling out of the ground.
Well, you pull that once, it sits there.
Okay. And then when we talk about $8 million for fire, or $7 million, I should say, for the Saline Fire Department, is that a lump sum? Is that an equipment give? Is that, it's just you're purchasing the equipment on behalf, so then, okay. And that's something the fire department will have to work through. And then when we talked about local outreach, the one thing it says here is that you have a local office in Saline. Is that current, or is that something you're maintaining?
It's current. It's not highly staffed at the moment. And we have a construction trailer here down the road, but we have rented office space currently, and for a few months, and then we'll probably extend. And again, we want to have a presence. We're going to want to spend a lot of time here.
Okay. With that, I'll yield my, yes.
I know we did an analysis of the current usage for the agricultural usage. It will actually be many factors less than the current agricultural usage of the farmland, using it just for our suppression water.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon. Councilmember Gearbaugh, you have 5 minutes if you'd like it.
Thank you. I mean, for most part, our city has no say in what's happening. This is Saline Township. So what we're just kind of curious and understanding is, we know there's going to be major construction happening. For us, the concern is going to be what kind of damage or potential could happen to our streets and our roads, because we are the main thoroughfare that's going to be part of this. So as you heard earlier, we talked about traffic concerns and everything. So for us, safety and that is going to be a major concern, and we expect we don't have any kind of understanding of what benefit is going to happen to us from the specific of the state or whatever. And part of my thing is, I know there's been meetings. I know the mayor's gone to Cleveland, and I don't know, we talk about transparency and all those things. Have there been any asks or things of you that would benefit this community as the city, not just the fire department and some of those that have occurred?
We're just getting started. I think we are open to conversations about ways we can help the community. And the first, we were focused on the township, frankly, and so we were in their township, but we were happy to have conversations here as well.
Okay.
We were talking with Molly about the Chamber of Commerce, which we're going to join and help sort of sponsor those things, and see. That's why we're here to open communication.
Have there been any meetings with our city manager, any city staff, or other city officials? Okay, just wanted to understand that this time. I know one of the questions, as you mentioned about incremental aspects of infrastructure that you'll need to put in place as a result that ties to that. But what comes to, and this is maybe for DTE, comes to energy generation. I understand that you're taking a coal plant offline and building a new gas plant, natural gas plant that may assist with it. That was an article in Cranes. But where are you right now currently at capacity? And with this center coming on board, I look at that shift, and if we have growth in our other businesses, these data centers, which is the major concern that's happening at the national level, are absorbing all of that capacity. And so what you state may be sustainable energy, it may not be affordable if it's all being used by somebody else.
Sure, happy to address your question. So as we sit here today and related to this project, my apologies, I keep saying related, I don't mean it as a pun. DT does have excess capacity in our generation fleet. Our fleet that's operating today is built for peak demand, hottest day in the summer, coldest day in the winter, but rarely are our customers putting that much demand on our generation fleet. So we are able to sell that excess energy to the data center, which helps unlock that affordability benefit I spoke to earlier. And when we pair their usage with battery energy storage projects, we are able to provide the reliable power that our customers expect and demand from us, right? Now, on the question of generation, right? So every 5 years, we are expected by the Michigan Public Service Commission, frankly, we're required, to file what's called an integrated resource plan, which is a comprehensive look at how we will generate the power for our customers on a fixed 5-year term, fixed forward-looking 5-year term, and in a longer term 10, 15-year vision, right? In 2022, we filed a plan with the Public Service Commission that stated we would retire the Monroe Power Plant by 2030s, right? And a phased retirement in 2028 it starts, it ends in 2032, and we would likely need to replace some of that capacity with a new natural gas plant, right? That plant would have to go through the process of approvals through the Michigan Public Service Commission. And so when we file our next integrated resource plan, which will be later next year, sort of third quarter of next year, we will be updating that plan that I just described. We will further study the retirement of Monroe Power Plant, its impacts on the grid, and how we preserve reliability for our customers, and what kinds of technologies would we deploy to fill that gap, right? All those decisions are put through what's considered a contested case process with the Michigan Public Service Commission. So there's a plan put forward by us. There are stakeholders that intervene in that process. They ask us questions. We go through discovery, et cetera. And the commission then, at the end of it, would issue an order on how we will move forward with our generation fleet. So at that point in time, we would know what kind of investments we would make on behalf of our customers. Ideally, we'd have more clarity on potentially other data centers that may be sited in our electric service territory. So these decisions will still come down the road in the coming, really the coming months into next year.
And I think that's the concerns that I know a lot of people express to me, and we just keep reading, is that there are a number of data centers being proposed within the DTE area, and to achieve that, and if you're guaranteeing rates to data centers and whatever for years, how are we going to pay for that? And as you know, there's been hundreds of millions of dollars of asks been done in the last few years by DTE. And what we would hate to see is that all of that continues, even though that all this electricity is being generated, and that you're having to increase your infrastructure, and it doesn't necessarily get distributed to those that are using it the most. It gets distributed to us citizens. So we're continuing to be worried about that, and I'm going to continue to express that concern.
Yeah.
So
let me just leave you with one final thought here.
Please.
One of the benefits of Michigan being a state that regulates its electric utilities is what's called the cost of service rate making, meaning what we charge our customers is the cost we incur to serve them, right? It is a way that fairness and equity is built into every electric rate, whether that's a residential, commercial, or industrial. So maybe not for this project, but for future projects, if new generation were to be required, that data center would end up paying their fair share of that investment. It would not be borne by the customers, much like I stated the provision in the sales and use tax exemption. There's really strong protections in Michigan's laws and the regulations that govern our business that will protect customers from the exact concern that you have.
Councilmember Rice, you have 5 minutes if you'd like them.
If you could, back to DTE, because this is the number one concern that I'm hearing as well. So information has come out that DTE has requested to expedite this process, which would remove some of the public hearing process. Can you please explain to us in as simple of terms as possible why this project you feel should be put through an expedited process, what that means for the public and perhaps lack of public hearings, and what that means for the project should you not receive permission. Does it delay this project?
Yeah, happy to answer your question. So we have filed 2 contracts with the Michigan Public Service Commission to support this project. One is a primary services agreement, which is essentially our electric service agreement with the customer, Oracle, right? We've also filed a bilateral contract with OpenAI and Oracle for the battery energy storage projects. Those 2 contracts are before the Michigan Public Service Commission, and we have asked for what's called ex parte approval, expedited approval, versus going through a contested case process, which can take up to 10 months, right? We have done so for 2 very specific reasons. First and foremost, these contracts meet the parameters allowed for ex parte filing. We are not increasing costs on our customers, nor are we asking the Public Service Commission to create a new rate for a certain customer. Those are 2 important criteria that define our ability to ask for ex parte. Okay. Second, and maybe more importantly, is Related has on a very tight timeline to construct this project. And if we are unable to meet those schedules, it is likely that Oracle will select a different site in a different state, and Michigan will lose out on this opportunity, which is the single largest economic development project in the state's history. And so we want to make sure that we do everything we can to enable this project to come to fruition.
What does the community lose by expediting the process? The ability to come in and ask questions?
Yeah, so as the Related team walked through a robust series of community engagements that went on prior to us getting here tonight. In addition to that, any member of the public can go to the Michigan Public Service Commission's website and issue public comments on the docket in support or opposition to those filings we've made. So the ability for the public to participate in this process is 100% there, right? The contested case process, which would be the kind of other way to go about this, is not really so much about providing a public hearing, but it is more about allowing interveners to engage in the contested process, provide audit and discovery questions for our lawyers to review, et cetera, and there's a healthy back and forth, much like there would be with a rate case or any other legal proceeding. And unfortunately, we don't have time for that right now, and it's something that is not necessary when you consider the amount of public engagement that has happened and the fact that the public can still put their opinions on the record with the commission for their consideration.
When you file for this, and you said you, because one of the stipulations is that this project is not going to increase rates for consumers, is there a guaranteed amount of time that it doesn't increase rates, or are you just saying right now we're not asking for a rate increase?
Yeah, our filing will show the affordability benefit well into the 2030s, and frankly, I expect it to go even farther into the future.
Did you have something else you wanted to add?
Please.
Councilor, I would just, as Greg mentioned, Related prides itself on community engagement. With the University of Michigan Innovation Campus in Detroit, I've done almost 300, I think, community engagements and stakeholder meetings over the 2 years. And so for us, even going door to door, right, is an example of trying to get that community input however we can. If we had the time, we would do exactly that here as well, and we will. But exactly what he was saying, you don't want to lose another one to Ohio, right? We don't lose another project to Texas. They put $300 million into stabilizing their grid in Ohio, thanks to projects like this. So trying to keep it and trying to do our best with the time we were able to do it.
And one final question to piggyback off my council colleague, Mr. Gearbaugh. Do we have a direct line of contact through our city manager should we start seeing construction trucks knocking stuff off in the city and the roads getting torn, or any issues that we have during this construction process? Because that's really going to be the bulk of when we feel it here in the city.
Yeah. Yes. For now, it's me. You know me. But we are just getting our team set up, and we want robust communication. We want to hear about something right away so we can address it. We are setting up with the township a construction community council. We're going to meet regularly and they give that thing. But yes, we don't want to wait for issues. We want to address them. So the answer is yes. For now, you can email me if there's a problem.
Thank you very much. That's it.
I'll try to exercise some brevity and make some quick comments and then ask a few questions if I may. First, let me expand upon a statement that was made. Myself and the then acting city manager did tour a variety of data centers, not in the Cleveland area, but in central Ohio and in the Columbus suburbs. That was organized by Ann Arbor Spark and included a number of representatives, colleagues, of Commissioner Beeman, including the chairman of the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners. I believe there were employees of DTE there, as well as a number of municipal officials who may have been impacted by data centers or approached by data centers throughout Washtenaw County. If I can jump back to Mr. Mahoney real quick, I appreciate your thorough response to Councilmember Rice's question about expedited approval. Am I correct? And if I'm incorrect, please state so for the record. These expedited approval processes are not particularly unique, are they?
You are correct, Mr. Mayor. If you were to look back over the past 5 years, you would see DTE in particular file 15 to 20 requests for the Michigan Public Service Commission for ex parte filing. Again, most of these filings are bilateral contracts with another party for extra renewable energy, would be a common example. And yeah, it's part of the regulatory process. You are exactly correct.
Yeah, thank you. And my next questions are for Greg and Ryan. And Greg, you touched upon this at the top of the presentation. Can you expand, though, on what sort of staff and services will be provided on site? And I'm looking at this through the lens of what impact this facility will have on a variety of municipal services within the region. So can you talk about what's being done on site pertaining to fire suppression? Can you talk a little bit about security on site? You already touched upon contributions to fire, work that you've done with MDOT, but if you could expand on what will be done on site once this facility is operational, I think that would be advantageous.
Yes, those two things are extremely important to our client who has billions of dollars of investment in their chips. And so the full fire suppression system, you can't nail me down on the actual technical aspects, but full fire suppression system, sprinklers everywhere, zoned, so that if there's an area, it will take care of that area. They don't want fire. There's no paper allowed in these places, right? They are extremely, we've met with the chief many times, and again, I don't put words in his mouth, but he says this is not a major problem. And so again, we have our own fire tank, which is a suppression tank, which is up on the hill. So we have gravity fed plus pipes to feed a very robust fire suppression system. Security. And by the way, we've also worked with the chief to make sure that there's plenty of access for fire trucks everywhere. And that if you look at the plan, there's lots of little inlets all the way through. Those are where the fire trucks are pulled in. It needs no more than 150 feet for a hose. The hose needs to touch. And so we've worked through all that with him. And so he, I think, feels very comfortable with the situation, and our systems are top of the line. Security, extremely secure. This is a national security issue that we will have during construction. And just go to the site right now and try to get on. You'll be questioned. But no, we'll have very tight. There'll be a fence around the entire area of the area, not the whole 1,000 acres, but the main area. A sort of 8 to 10 foot wrought iron fence. It'll be totally attractive, and there'll be guard booths on the check-in, and there'll be tons of security throughout.
Okay, thank you. I'll just conclude by, again, we appreciate your time. You were under no obligation to attend this evening, but we appreciate your time and Dan and Molly's. Appreciate you so thoroughly addressing our questions and concerns. Do I have your permission to share your contact information with my council colleagues in the event that additional questions and concerns come up in the ensuing weeks?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. I will do so. And I know that the city manager already has your contact information along with the city clerk. We hope to continue the dialogue, and if we can be of assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Very good. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you all. Natalie, thank you as well. We appreciate you attending. We are going to proceed to the consent agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion. However, at the request of any citizen or council member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for discussion.
I'd like to remove item 25-177.
Okay, did you provide staff notification that this item would be removed?
No, because it was a conversation at the beginning of this meeting.
Okay, is there a second to approve the consent agenda as amended? Seconded by Harmount, okay? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We come to the first item under new business, which is the item that was just removed from the consent agenda, which is 25-177, City Council meeting dates for 2026. This will be a motion to approve or simply to acknowledge the City Council meeting dates for the calendar year 2026.
Move to acknowledge.
Okay, moved by Dillon, seconded by Gearbaugh. The floor is yours, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon.
Thank you. In looking at the dates, because we've got a couple that fall for holidays where meetings are going to roll, the one date that's the biggest one in concern right now is there's currently scheduled a meeting for July 6th, which July 4th falls on a Saturday this year. And kind of looking at whether or not that holiday weekend is the right avenue to have a meeting coming in on that Monday. But rolling it to like the 13th would then be almost a full month in between meetings. So trying to look at, is there a way in which we can adjust schedules differently? I mean, maybe others. It seemed like the general consensus was that people were not really thrilled with having a meeting on July 6th.
If I may, July 6th is my birthday, and I'll plan to be here. So I don't view that as problematic in any way. Go ahead, Councilman Rice.
There were a couple of us that just didn't really catch the fact that we wouldn't really be doing due diligence to the packet if we had a meeting on that Monday. So we were comfortable with, we looked at moving the June 15th meeting to the 22nd and moving the July 6th meeting to the 13th, if that shift is okay with everyone.
State those dates one more time.
June would be June 22nd. July 6th would become July 13th.
So you're proposing then we would be meeting on the first Monday of June and then the fourth Monday of June, and then the second Monday in July and the third Monday in July?
Yeah, it gets wonky in there.
Okay, let me defer to staff first. Clerk Royal, do you see any problems with changing those dates and times for the summer months of 2026?
No, I could, it affects my vacation, but I'm willing to change that.
You're certainly free to send a subordinate or deputy if you are unavailable. City Manager Swallow, do you see anything problematic with that proposed change?
Actually, back-to-back meetings, we do that frequently for other instances, so I think that.
Okay, let me start with Councilmember Harmont. Does that proposed change work for you?
Yes, it does.
Okay, obviously you're good. Councilmember Rice, Councilmember Gearbaugh?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Yes.
Mr. Lesh, unfortunately you won't be here. Let me jump to the audience to Council Members-elect. Councilmember-elect Del Orco, do you have, does that prove problematic for you in any way?
I have no issues with it.
Councilmember-elect Helsch, does that prove problematic for you in any way? Okay, then let's proceed to vote on the motion moved by Gearbaugh, moved by Dillon, seconded by Gearbaugh to acknowledge the dates. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Is there somebody now who'd like to make a motion to approve the dates, noting the time changes for June and July?
I'll move to approve that.
Okay, moved by Rice. Who's the second? Gearbaugh. Okay, get you on the next one, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon. Clerk Royal, you're clear on the motion. Very good. Any additional discussion? There is none. All those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. We move on to the final new business item of the evening, which is 25-178, professional search proposal for DPW director position. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt and to approve or not to approve the public works search proposal from Pivot Group in the amount of $9,300.
Move to acknowledge.
Moved by Dillon, simply to acknowledge. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Gearbaugh. City Manager Swallow, would you like to begin?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. As Council is aware, our current DPW Director, Zach Happel, has announced his resignation effective at the end of the calendar year. And this is obviously a critical position for the city to replace in a timely manner and to ensure that we have uninterrupted operations as well as contracts that are being led and reviewed as part of the DPW operations. So As part of that, we would like to expedite, to the extent practical, the filling of that position, as well as to ensure that we have a broad applicant pool as possible. DPW directors in particular are challenging in terms of the current marketplace, in terms of the current job market, to identify and recruit a professional that obviously meets all of our standards, as well as meets the highest standards as possible for the community of Saline. So with that, one of the advantages of hiring a search firm is to take advantage of their recruitment pool, take advantage of their networking, take advantage of their ability to work not only within the region but across the state in terms of recruitment for this position. So with that, the city, through working with the HR department, we did solicit proposals from known search firms in the state of Michigan, those two being Vetriano Consulting as well as Pivot Group Consulting. So with that, we reviewed those proposals. We interviewed both the principals and recruitment firms for their experience. Both had similar proposals. The Pivot Group in particular identified several key aspects to their proposal. They obviously, with the ability to assist the city throughout this process and developing the job posting and advertising that with the state agencies and with the American Public Works Association, marketing the position, working again their networks to identify potential candidates and advocating with those candidates to apply for the job. They would also assist in expediting review of resumes and providing through staff the search criteria for that position, attending in-person meetings to help review the candidates, reviewing again top candidates, identifying their recommendation for the position based on the criteria that we have selected, and then ultimately working through the interview process and a hiring process with the selected candidate. So as part of the proposal, I'm recommending the Pivot Group Municipal Services. This is a well-known recruiter in the state, has a large number of city and public sector clients. They've recruited for a significant number of department head positions. Examples of some of their recent recruitments include Northville Community Development Director, Auburn Hills Recreation Director, Coldwater City Planner. James Freed is the primary recruiter and has shared his experiences with his participation with the American Public Works Association and other groups such as the Michigan Rural Water Association. In addition to advertising, again, they will conduct their direct recruitment with potential candidates and identifying them through their network. So with that, also, once we bring the recruitment firm on board, I know there's some questions about would we have a hiring committee? The answer is yes. So obviously that would include potentially one or two members of council, as well as members of staff that would work directly with the DPW director. So obviously if there's someone who wants to volunteer for that hiring committee this evening, take those opportunities this evening and make sure we include you going forward. So with that, then the hiring committee would work with the consultant to start and initiate the process.
Thank you, City Manager Swallow. Per your concluding comments there, yes, I would. We discussed this, of course, but I would strongly encourage us to establish a hiring committee, which is standard practice and protocol here at the City of Saline. If I may be so bold, I would recommend probably 2 council members. And since council members Lesh, Rice, and myself recently served on a hiring committee, I would recommend engaging one of my 4 colleagues or even one of the council members elect. And I think including yourself and a department head in a lateral position with the incoming DPW director would be appropriate and advantageous. And maybe we can get that hiring committee together and have council approve it at either our next meeting or our first meeting in December. My hunch is you want to be in a position of interviewing finalists probably in early December.
Hopefully we could get that quickly. It could be early next year.
Okay, very good. Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, as the mover of the motion simply to acknowledge receipt, did you have some questions for the city manager?
I did. I sent some in earlier today, and I just wanted to sort of follow up on them about the Pivot Group. I was sort of a little surprised when I looked them up online. The primary principal of that group is actually a marriage therapist. So I was sort of a little surprised that that was the group that we were going with. They also did not list in any of the things, actual DPW hirings. So what I'd like to know is understand which communities they've hired DPWs for, and can we reach out to those communities to see if they were successful in recruiting? Because as you had said, I have sat on the last 2.5 DPW hiring committees. And I know it is a hard position to hire for. And so just understanding if they have been successful in doing that. One of the other things that I wanted to sort of understand about was that because Mr. Hapolo was hired just under a year ago at this point, I believe, when we started that process, I would think our information is still fresh. I don't know that we necessarily need to recreate job postings, criteria, a lot of those details. So I feel like we should be like kind of at the starting gate, ready to kick off at this point. And so I'm very concerned about having lag time between our current DPW and a new hire. Through the winter, it's one of the busiest times for DPW. And making sure that we have leadership there. So I would love to see this kicked off immediately, and understanding if our HR director is going to be doing part of that recruiting in and of itself.
So the short answer is yes, HR director will be directly involved in the recruiting process, and will provide obviously the historical information that you mentioned on the previous recruitment oriented. That is their specialty. They do a number of clients that I mentioned, our municipal clients. That is their focus on that, and they do a number of department head recruitments as well.
Okay, like I said, I just didn't see anything listed. It was just strange that in recruiting them for a DPW that they didn't list any references that were pertaining to DPW positions. And so that was one of the big things that I had right now about that. And just understanding, like I said, it's a key role for the city. My other concern that I wanted is that you've mentioned possibly an org chart revision, and understanding how this position would fit into your future vision. And is this the path that you choose to go on right now?
So as far as the org chart, we have talked about looking at the not only DPW, but also utilities, and kind of combining them or having an oversight position in the Department of Public Services role. I think that this position is still critical on the DPW level, and even if we did later look at, modifying the org chart and adding potentially a Department of Public Services position.
Thank you very much.
Additional questions for the city manager, Councilmember Gearbaugh?
Just knowing how we're moving forward with these type of hires and everything, did they propose a structured and objective way that they're going to measure qualifications and aspects of how that will be determined when you select the candidate?
That is part of the initial engagement, that they would look at the specific criteria that we want to include in that. So that would be a consultation with the city, and the consultants together would finalize those criteria.
Yeah, thank you. I was hoping that to move forward on that type of thing. The only other thing, when it talks about doing a formal criminal and financial background review of the lead candidate, are there any? We used to do a very thorough approach to that and kind of backed off on that in the last few years. Do you feel what they're going to be doing is significant enough to make sure that we don't have any concerns?
That would be part of their services, is to do a detailed and thorough background check, not only through existing background agencies, but also through social media, looking at social media, contacting references, doing beyond just the initial contact, but secondary references. So that is all part of the services that they do provide, and they do use professional background check agencies.
And so we anticipate within the $9,300 fee, whatever, there won't be any additional costs beyond maybe travel or something of that nature.
Right. No, that is included in the proposal.
Okay. I guess for me, moving ahead as quick as you can is fine. I know that we did go through the work, but having an outside firm that has the expertise is the best way to go approach it. I just don't believe our HR director has that level of need and expertise in these different areas. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Additional questions, Councilmember Rice and then Councilmember Harmount.
I do want to just point out that the background review is not included in this. It says background review up to $750 is not included in this $9,300 cost. But I do like that they've given us the background of their lead investigator. I feel like he would do his due diligence and understands he's a former police. He would do his due diligence there. But yeah, just that is not included, and it says it also doesn't include advertising and publication costs, which are probably nominal as well, or travel for candidates interviewed. And with the city manager position, we did pay for candidates to fly in for that position. So just a couple of additional things to keep in mind, which again, these are going to be nominal in my mind as far as hiring a DPW director. It'll be worth it. The one thing that I do like about this group in particular is they offer a 1-year placement guarantee. And boy, if we had that last year, because we're doing this all over again with our DPW director. Yeah, really focus on getting someone in here for more than a year. Make sure that we find the right candidate who wants to be in the city of Saline and stay here and get some things going. We've got a lot of big projects over the next year that will be coming online. So I appreciate that about this particular group.
You're good. Councilmember Harmount?
Yes, I was curious if we could have the criteria that you judged and compared the different options for consulting firm. Like what were the things that we judged them on, and how did we get to the point where we have for the pivot?
So I can provide that. I don't have that in front of me this evening.
Okay. The other thing I would like to, one of my council members said, is that have an idea of how they're going to approach the evaluation. I'd like to see an example or how they're going to actually approach, what's their process for approaching their evaluation.
Any additional questions? Mr. Gearbout, before we vote on the motion.
Just to clarify, I'm reading your memo. It does say in the one portion that the formal criminal and financial background review of the lead candidate, but then down in the budget line, it says, as Councilmember Rice said, background review. Is that two different things?
Oh, maybe it is. I think there's a fee for some of the services that they engage, maybe a separate fee.
I just want to make sure that if in our motion, because we're actually rebudgeting $10,000, but it says not in an amount of $9,300, so there's a little disconnect between what the budget request is for and what the rebudgeting is. So,
should the motion really read to Mr. Gearbout's point? I apologize for interrupting if you're mid-statement or mid-thought.
No,
Should the subsequent motion be then a motion to approve or not approve the public works search proposal from the pivot group in an amount not to exceed $10,000?
That would be appropriate, yes.
Okay. Okay. Sorry if you had anything further, Mr. Gearbout.
No, I appreciate that, Mayor. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? We have a motion on the floor moved by Dillon, seconded by Gearbout, simply to acknowledge receipt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Is there a subsequent motion that a member would like to offer from the floor?
I'll make that motion with the amount of $10,000.
Okay, it's been moved by Gearbout to approve at a not to exceed amount of $10,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rice. Is there any additional discussion? Appears to be none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to the discussion portion of our agenda, reports and other announcements, including updates from boards, commissions, committees, and task forces. City Manager Swallow, noting the Deputy City Manager's absence this evening, can you provide on her behest 2 quick updates regarding Thorncrest and the ongoing due diligence of the Davenport Curtis House? And then if individual council members have questions regarding either of those 2 issues, they can ask it during their allotted time.
Yes, I can start as in the order you provided. Thorncrest Apartments, as we're aware, this is the development where through some ongoing issues with the facility itself, there was a recent sale. The new owners have provided notice to approximately 40 of the residents that they are losing their ability to continue on with their month-to-month lease situations they have. So those people, unfortunately, would be potentially seeking new housing, which, as we know, particularly on the lower level, is very difficult and challenging to find new housing there. So with that, City of Saline responded and helped organize the efforts of Deputy City Manager Cole, a working group that included not only city representative, but Washtenaw County's Office of Community Economic Development, First Presbyterian Church, Saline Area Social Services, as well as other local housing partners, including our local Six Trails apartment complex that is willing to work together and try and find new housing for these individuals. So Thorncrest is, again, looking at potentially changing ownership, and this informational meeting will help those individuals. An informational session will be held, help the residents navigate next steps, learn about available support, and access housing options. Again, this will be held on this coming Saturday, November 15th from 1 to 3 p.m. Residents can contact either the city, and we'll be distributing flyers, which have been provided already to many of the residents about how to access this, this meeting, as well as the representatives that will be there. So we want to acknowledge the leadership of Washington County, especially Tony
Kayumi.
And the OCED and our other community partners for their swift collaboration in helping residents and helping them find stable housing. So with that, again, the session will be Saturday, November 15th from 1 to 3 p.m.
Very good. And I did confirm today with the Deputy City Manager and a member of our ecumenical community who's assisted with the planning of this that flyers will actually be dropped at individual doors probably on Wednesday, in addition to some email dissemination. And we are encouraging every resident, every occupant of Thorncrest to attend, not just those who have received notice in the past few weeks. I also want to acknowledge the leadership of the Deputy City Manager and the Community Development Director, Mr. Adkins, who've been very proactive on this issue, and I appreciate that. Did you want to transition to a brief statement on the Davenport Curtis House?
Davenport Curtis House, again, this has been an ongoing project from City Council and continuing due diligence as to the potential acquisition of that property. Again, this is part of the due diligence has been going on for the last approximately 60 days. That inspection period has been extended through December 3rd to allow for time to complete some final technical reviews. Two key inspections that are scheduled for this coming week include a structural inspection as well as a mechanical inspection, and a final assessment of the buildings, their integrity, their systems, their conditions, and any near-term stabilization needs. Once these are complete, these reports will be compiled and provided to City Council for their review and consideration. After the due diligence period expires, then the city will have approximately 30 days to decide whether or not to proceed to closing. And parallel with that, staff has been researching grants, funding opportunities, offset acquisition, rehab costs, evaluating programs through MEDC, State Historic Preservation Office, and through the other granting agencies such as the DNR for recreation programming. We're also looking at philanthropic and foundation partners that supported adaptive reuses of similar projects in other communities. Also been reviewing successful preservation adaptive reuse models in peer cities as far as where they have historical homes, including Wyandotte, Muskegon, as well as City of Monroe. Findings from these inspections, funding research, and also the review of the other similar communities will be provided to Council prior to any closing request.
Very good. And I know that Deputy City Manager Cole, who's taking the lead on this project, would welcome any conversations with any of you if you do have additional questions. Can I start with Councilmember Harmon? If you had any follow-up questions for the City Manager, that would be welcomed. But more importantly, if you have any updates, reports, announcements, or items from boards and commissions that you'd like to share.
We have a Historic District Commission meeting this Thursday.
Very good. Councilmember Lesh?
Nope, no, I'll take this one.
Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Well, I just have a question regarding Thorncrest, and just because there seemed to be some confusion with the residents as to who is being displaced versus who is not. Are the residents that are being displaced, is it because those units are being condemned?
No. Basically, it's the sale of the property. There obviously was previous property maintenance issues at the site that obviously led to the sale of the property. And so with that, these are properties, or the individual units are ones that are on month-to-month leases that do not have an ongoing lease. And it is our understanding the new owners do anticipate remodeling these units, but at this point, we don't have a detail on exactly where they'll start or what units are affected.
And then do we have any understanding at this point, it's not just displacing people from their housing, it's displacing them from their jobs. A lot of people that live in those apartments work in this community and walk to their jobs. So moving them to Ypsi or to even the west side of town can make it prohibitive for them to get to jobs. So I want to make sure that that is a piece of this that we are looking at and understanding that it's the complete person. It's not just their housing. And so I'm hoping that that's a part of that conversation.
Indeed, it will be. Thank you for that.
And so then as far as for my report outs on things, the only one I really have to report out is from the Cable Commission. We are still working with Comcast and a couple of contractors regarding a broken fiber cable. So the community access channel is still not available currently, but all of the meetings that are recorded community events can be viewed on the YouTube channels, either the city or the schools.
Very good. Councilmember Gearbaugh?
Thank you. There will not be Planning Commission meeting this month. We're waiting to hear more back on Lot 20. They're working in due diligence. I know there's a timeline coming up with them, but hopefully there'll be something that can be presented to planning in the next month to evaluate the sale and hopefully development of that property. Risk management met this past Thursday. One of the big concerns that's come up is AI, and so we've added that as a topic. The big concern has been is that there's a lot of reliability happening on AI without proper vetting and review of that information that's being used. And in certain situations, even in legal cases, or attorneys are using information and that may not be valid. And so as a result, there may be concerns that if we start going more into that and using that as an ability, we may not have the accuracy and could be putting ourselves in legal danger or even putting the public in danger. And then I just want to invite again, just a reminder, we will have the annual Christmas at the Farm on December 7th from 12 to 3, the day after the holiday parade that will happen on December 6th.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Rice, any updates, reports, announcements?
I just want to thank the city manager and all those involved in this Thorncrest issue. I'm looking at the flyer here, and it does it really does look like you are looking at the whole person. We've got legal guidance, we've got financial support, we've got mental health, we've got transportation. Y'all really have it covered. I do plan to attend as so that I can listen in because I have had members of the Thorncrest community reach out to me. So again, just kudos to everyone involved in the quick turnaround and gathering. And you know, it makes me feel really good about this community that we had so many community members and organizations that immediately said yes. That's just wonderful. Second to that, I would like to request that very soon after the first of the year, when we get our new council colleagues on board, that we get a thorough update on our communications contract. We've got some bits and pieces, and you did provide us an update in one of your weekly communiques, but that was a lot of money, and I want to make sure that what we asked for is being provided to us. I know there were we have a new point of contact with Metric Marketing. So I would just really appreciate if Director Schonk and PR Generalist or Community Relations Specialist Massey could give us an update on where we are with that, and just make sure that we are getting our money's worth out of that. And it also would be an update as to how that's meeting the goals of our strategic plan, because that contract was based off of a good chunk of our strategic plan and some of the goals that we were trying to meet there. So a nice update on that after the first of the year would be really helpful. I don't have any updates on my boards and commissions. They are all next week.
Very good. I actually think you'll get an update on the comprehensive communication plan before the first of the year, but I do think it would be advantageous for the 2026 council to discuss that maybe in the first quarter of the next year. I do appreciate your remarks about the effort that staff has put in to organize this summit and town hall on Saturday. I also want to acknowledge the support we've received from Commissioner Beeman and many of your colleagues at Washtenaw County, who I actually think will be on site later this week and then be in attendance at our event on Saturday. I also want to note, in addition to all of the public officials who will be there, including legal aid, likely the county's equity officer, we've also received tremendous support from the ecumenical community of Saline. And I think it's wonderful when our churches step up up in a time of need. Mr. Gearbaum made some comments about Lot 20A, and I did confirm with the Community Development Director, it's likely that that issue will be considered by our Planning Commission at our one and only meeting in December. So we do look forward to making some progress on that. And then last, we do have our annual Small Business Summit here, co-hosted by the Chamber and sponsored by DTE Energy, I believe, at 11:30 here in Council Chambers. It is open to any small business in the Saline community with 25 employees or less, and we also extend an invitation to anybody who's interested in starting a business, expanding a business, or relocating a business to our community. We'll have a keynote address from one of the senior vice presidents at SBAM, and I think it will be very informative. So, and you also get free lunch. So again, 11:30, you do need RSVP either to the Chamber or to the City of Saline, and please do so no later than Wednesday morning. If there are no additional reports or announcements, I will entertain a motion to convene into closed session in accordance with MCL Section 15.268H to consider a legal opinion from the city attorney, which is exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute. The City Council will reconvene into regular session at the conclusion of the closed session. Is there a motion to convene?
So moved.
Moved by Rice. Is there a second? Was that second by Lesh? Yep. Thank you, sir. Clerk will please call the roll.
Councilmember Gearbaum?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Councilmember Lesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Harmel?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Yes.
Mayor Morrow?
Yes, we are convening into closed session at 9:09. Damn, all that.
Doubling?
No, that he calls in it.
Oh, got ya.
Okay, friends, I'd like to entertain a motion to reconvene into regular session at 10:11. Is there a motion to do so? Moved by Gearba. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dillon. I'll get you on the next one, Mr. Lesh. Clerk will please call the roll.
Councilmember Gearba?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Yes.
Councilmember Lesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Harmount?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Yes.
Mayor Morrow?
Yes. We are reconvened into regular session. Clerk Royal, can you, for the record, we have a motion I believe that the body would like to entertain. Can you read the written motion?
Yes, it's a motion to approve resolution of the TPOM/employee matter under the terms as outlined by the city attorney in closed session.
Okay. Everyone clear on that motion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Lesh. Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I'll let Dillon be the second. I'll get you on the next one, Councilmember Rice, if you want to make the motion to adjourn. Is there any discussion on the motion? Then we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries 6-1, unanimously noting one absence. If there's no additional business to come before Saline City Council this evening, we proceed to the second public comment period. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward and make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Those wishing to speak are requested, but of course not required to state their name and address for the record. Please note, Council generally does not answer questions during this public comment period. Are there any citizen comments this evening? Please, you will have 3 minutes.
Okay, Mary Widener, I live on Redkins. So my first comment is about Flock. They do not, they haven't enforced two-factor authentication, which actually was noted by Senator Wyden of Oregon that due to this, it's a violation of federal law. So it means it's also susceptible to malware. And if the malware goes in, third parties can get that information, save it to their computers. And so cities like Redmond, Washington have actually completely gone away from Flock because of this issue of security breaches. So my other comment is at the data center, there's a lot of data centers in, well, currently everywhere. So one of the issues that the fire departments are having is that when there's such a high level of security at the place, they're unable to access where the fire has started. And I'm hoping that there's some sort of protocol put in place where they can actually enter the building and put out the fire, just to avoid any like prolonging fires because they go quick in data centers. And it was mentioned that the Thorncrest residents, I think there was some sort of helping them out, but no one mentioned a location on that. So I was wondering if maybe for anyone watching who wants to help to maybe mention a location. I know it was Saturday at 1 to 3, but that was all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate your comments and your patience this evening. Clerk Royal, were there any written comments provided in advance of tonight's meeting in which the individual wanted their remarks read at this time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, let me address those comments very quickly. Mary, we appreciate your comments on the Flock camera discussion. That's something we will be revisiting, likely not at our next meeting, but more likely at our first meeting in December, which is actually December 1st, here in council chambers at 7. I think your concerns about the data center are well-founded. I would confirm again, the city of Saline actually does not have any jurisdiction over that issue. It's a Saline Township project, so the concerns would need to be addressed through the planning and zoning process of the city of Saline and the fire department. But I know conversations about proper fire service and suppression on site are ongoing and will continue. And then the meeting that we're having specifically for the Thorncrest residents is here at City Hall. But again, it is specific for those residents who are affected by the notice that was received about a week ago or any of the other tenants of that complex. We appreciate the comments, though. If there's nothing further to be brought before City Council this evening, the chair would be delighted to entertain a motion to adjourn at 10:15. Do you want to make that motion, Ms. Rice?
Yes, I would.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dillon. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.